On behalf of ISTQB, we welcome everyone today to this webinar on the new ISTQB Advanced Syllabus. The International Software Testing Qualification Board, ISTQB, has already effected profound change in the software testing field, with over 250,000 people having attained foundation certification. But a foundation certification is just that, only a foundation. The ISTQB Advanced program is achieving great success, with tens of thousands of people getting one or more of the advanced certifications. Now the ISTQB has made that program even better, releasing a new version, more streamlined, more market-friendly version of the Advanced Syllabus in October 2012. In this webinar, Rex Black, co-author of the new Advanced Syllabus, will explain what's new and what's great about the ISTQB Advanced Syllabus, and how it can guide you, your testing colleagues, and your organization toward better testing, reduced risk, and higher quality. Our speaker today is Rex Black. With 30 years of software and systems engineering experience, Rex has been a leader in software, hardware, and systems testing. Rex is the president of RBCS and past president of the International Software Testing Qualifications Board, ISTQB. He has also been past president, or is also past president, of the American Software Testing Qualifications Board, ASTQB. His popular first book, Managing the Testing Process, has sold over 50,000 copies around the world and is now in its third edition. He is the author of 10 other books on testing, as well as of more than 40 articles. Rex is a popular speaker at conferences and events around the world, and we're lucky to have him presenting today. Before we start the presentation, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to submit them throughout the presentation via your webinar interface. However, please note that they will be answered only at the end of the presentation. If you are having problems with either the audio or visual components of this webinar, please contact GoToWebinar support. These problems are usually related to browser incompatibility with GoToWebinar, company firewalls, or audio settings on your PC, so we recommend starting there. We also recommend that you mute your cell phones to avoid distraction during the webinar. I hope you enjoy this free webinar from ISTQB, as we plan to present more offerings in future months, and you can find additional information about those, as well as copies of these slides and a recording of this webinar on the ISTQB site. Rex, if you're ready, we'll hand control over to you.
Yes, I am. Thanks, Dave. Let's wait for that to come over. While that's coming over, great, there we go. Let's see. PowerPoint, yep. Okay, Dave, I assume you can see my presentation now?
I can.
Very good. Well, thank you everybody for attending today. I'm coming to you from beautiful, sunny, and cool South Texas. I'm going to talk briefly about the new advanced syllabus that we've brought out this year, something that we're very pleased with, and give you some ideas about how this can be beneficial to you and your organization. So we worked on a new version of the advanced syllabus for about a little over 18 months, myself and a number of other people in the advanced working group. We started off with the perspective that the learning objectives that we had were pretty good, needing a few tweaks to make them easier to examine, but for the most part solid, and that the major changes needed to be with respect to the syllabus text. So what you'll see is a lot of rewritten text if you read it, but that the underlying learning objectives are the same. Now, one of the things that we did with the text that was particularly important was that we split from a single document, single syllabus, into 3 separate syllabi to make the distinction between the three modules more clear, and we think that we've succeeded with that. The distinction, clarifying the distinction, I think helps make the career progression clearer as well, and you can see that here that people come in and enter the program at the foundation level and then can choose to move up through one or more of the advanced paths. As you can see, I'm using the highlighter here to highlight those. You can do one, two, or all three of the advanced. I think most people who do all three of the advanced will probably be consultants such as myself or trainers. I think for most people their career paths are either taking them in a technical direction, a individual contributor, tester direction, or a manager direction. I would say that what we expect to be a popular pairing is the technical test analyst and the test analyst, because as I said earlier, one of the things that we did was completely split out. There's no overlap between the syllabi now, and as a result there are some black box test design techniques that are only covered in the test analyst syllabus that can definitely be useful to people at the who are on the technical side. So I think that will be a nice combination. People will probably want to take advantage of that. Now you see we already have a couple steps up at the expert level for the test managers. We expect that the test management module will be the most popular of those, and the ISTQB intends to have exams available for the expert test manager here shortly. So that would be this path up through the test manager into the expert test management module. Test automation and security testing, those should both be out later this year or early next, and that will be the path up through the technical test analyst. Definitely I would recommend, if somebody wanted to do those two, that they actually do both the test analyst and the technical test analyst. We will be introducing additional modules at the expert level that have dependencies on the test analyst, as they just don't exist yet. Okay, so a little more about the advanced syllabus, or syllabi, since there are three, the 2012 version. There were 19 authors from 11 different countries. We had 26 primary reviewers coming in and looking at it very closely. We processed literally thousands of comments that we got back over, I think it was 4 rounds of review, with sort of ever increasing scope. And there was even the final review by the 47 national boards. We got even more feedback from that. So definitely millennia of experience involved in creating, reviewing, finalizing the advanced syllabus. People around the world in many, many, many different industries. So we really do think that it represents the best practices of advanced software testing from around the world. Now, learning objectives. For those of you familiar with the ISTQB program, you're probably familiar with the concept of learning objectives. The advanced advanced exams are based on the learning objectives that are defined in the modules. And we have 4 increasing levels of sophistication and difficulty generally with the learning objectives. You've got basic recollection. Those are the K1 questions, just to be able to remember something. K2 is to understand. Of course, you'd have to remember to be able to understand. So basic understanding of a technique. K3 is the ability to apply it, apply that technique or standard. And then K4 is to be able to analyze a situation and determine what techniques to apply. Now, something important to keep in mind is that at the foundation level, the K1 and K2 questions, not sure why this defaults to purple ink, K1 and K2 questions account for some 85, whoops, apologies, something just popped up here. 85% of the exam. Shoot, sorry. I like Citrix, but every now and then it does weird things, like erasing the figures. So anyway, back to where I was before I was rudely interrupted by my own computer. On the foundation level, K1 and K2 questions account for 85% of the exam. So basic recollection and basic understanding is sufficient to pass the foundation. That is not true at all at the advanced level. So at the advanced level, there are, let me get the pen up again, no K1 questions. What will happen is that you can get a question that requires recollection of facts and terminology and so forth, but it will be implicitly part of another question. In other words, selecting the right answer will require that you remember something. What you will see is you'll have K2 through K4 questions, and the thing that is important to remember is that the K1 questions generally will be 1 point, K2 questions generally will be 1 point, excuse me. K3 questions generally 2 points, and the K4 questions generally 4 points. So what this means is that the bulk of the points on the advanced exams will be at the K3 and K4 level, so completely opposite of the foundation situation. So your preparation strategy must vary accordingly. Also, something that's important to mention here is that the learning objectives for each syllabus are completely separate. There is literally no overlap. There wasn't much, if any, overlap before. In fact, there was almost no overlap between Test Manager and the other two modules, and very little between the Test Analyst and the Technical Test Analyst, but now there is none. So if you were thinking, oh, well, there's a core module and I need to study that core module, wherever you got that idea, that's not the case any longer. So let's look at each of these syllabi, sort of a quick numeric overview, give you a sense of size. Advanced Test Manager is the biggest. Accredited courses on the Advanced Test Manager module will be 5 days long. You've got 34 K2 LOs and then a total of 32 K3 and K4 LOs you can see here. So you know, fairly significant number of learning objectives. You got 50, 34 plus 22 is 56, so 56 learning objectives total. The ATA is a little smaller. It's 4 days in the training. You've got 42 learning objectives, 22 K2s, and then 20 K3s and K4s. And then the ATTA, the Advanced Technical Test Analyst, is 3 days, and you can see that it's got 17 K2s and then 18 K3s and K4s, so 27, 35 total. And you see the decreased number of pages there as well. So that's something that we did, is we took advantage of the we took advantage of the reorganization of the material to try to put everything on kind of a diet. And as you can see, we got them smaller, which we think makes them more accessible to people. Okay, if you take an advanced training course, it has to cover all of the content and all of the learning objectives defined for the relevant syllabus, but not anything from any of the other syllabi. So a Test Manager course is 100% about Test Manager. The Test Analyst course, 100% about Test Analyst topics. Technical Test Analyst, 100% about Technical Test Analyst topics. As I said, there is no possibility of any sort of core module or anything like that, because there is no overlap whatsoever in terms of the text or the learning objectives between the three modules. So that is we think a great improvement over the old syllabus, which had the appearance of shared material, even though the learning objectives really were not at any point common, and I think that resulted in a lot of confusion. The courses have to have real-world examples for all K2, K3, and K4 learning objectives. So you should be, you can expect those learning objectives to be illustrated with realistic computer, hardware, software systems examples. You know, that will allow you to relate the learning objectives to things in the real world. Also, there have to be exercises, realistic exercises associated with all the K3 and K4 learning objectives, and those have to be done in class in an instructor-led course, and the instructor needs to work through the solution. So the idea here very much is to make these syllabi and the courses that support them a vehicle whereby people get a very practical outlook. Unlike the foundation, which is really just sort of introductory and it's designed to give people the basic ideas they need to be productive at even an entry level in software testing. In the advanced level, the focus is really very much on the practical side. Now, to get an advanced certificate, you have to have a foundation certificate. That could be from the ISTQB, or it can be from any other ISTQB recognized exam board or member board. So if you took a ISEB exam, for example, using Prometric, no problem, you can take the advanced. You also have to have an appropriate level of experience. You have to pre-qualify. You can get more information on that by going to the istqb.org website and looking up the experience level that's currently required for that. And you have to subscribe to the Code of Ethics in the Foundation Syllabus. So if you have not seen the 2011 version of the Foundation Syllabus, take a look at that, and Code of Ethics is in there. As with all the ISTQB exams, Foundation, Advanced, and also this will be true at the Expert, there is no training required. The ISTQB does recommend accredited training. The pass rates are dramatically different, especially at the advanced levels, but you are not required to take that. 2007 syllabus certificates have been grandfathered, completely grandfathered, so they are. You do not have to retake. I mean, of course, you can if you want to retake the exam against the latest syllabus if you're so inclined, but you are not required by any means to do that. Okay, so speaking of the exams, let's take a look at what's true of those exams here. Advanced Test Manager exam and the Advanced Test Analyst exam, both of those guys, 3 hours long. The Advanced Test Manager is 65 questions. The Advanced Test Analyst is 60 questions, so just a few less. The minimum number of questions per chapter is shown here. So this is for Advanced Test Manager, that's Chapter 1. You've got 13 questions. Chapter 2 is 25. Chapter 3 is 6. Chapter 4 is 4. 5. 6, and 7. So 3 questions for 5, 4 questions for 6, and 7 questions for 7. So you can see that there's quite a different distribution of questions there from one chapter to another, and the bulk of the questions in the Advanced Test Manager exam are going to be associated with chapters 1, 2, and 7. So from a point of view of where you want to prepare, that's what you want to focus on. There are 115 points available. Remember that the points vary depending on the K level of the question. You need 65% of those points or 75 points to pass. The Test Analyst level, you see we've got 9 questions for Chapter 1, 3 questions for Chapter 2, 31 questions for Chapter 3, 4 questions for Chapter 4, 5 questions for Chapter 6, and 4 questions for Chapter 5 and 4 questions for Chapter 6. So again, you see, most of the questions are in Chapter 3, which is the chapter on test design techniques. Is what you would expect. 120 points total available, and 78 required, or 65% required to pass that exam. Now the technical test analyst, this guy is shorter. It's only 2 hours long, 45 questions. You see that there are fewer chapters, so fewer chapters in the advanced test manager. So you got 2 questions for chapter 1, it's very short, or 9 questions for chapter 2, 7 questions for chapter 3, 12 questions for chapter 4, 5 questions for chapter 5, and 10 questions for chapter 6. That can be more of an even distribution than the other 2 exams. 80 points total, and again 65% or 52 points required to pass that exam. Now, you might say, oh, well, the technical test analyst is going to be the easy one, but actually the material in that is really challenging, and if you decide you want to go for that, I would say, well, make sure that you really do have the technical background that is needed to do it, because it is very, very challenging material that's covered in that syllabus. And since it's a 3-day class, if it ends up that you've got the exam on the end of the 3rd day, if you take an accredited training class, that could be it could be very challenging to get through. Okay, so a lot of this I've already mentioned. The K1 learning objectives are implicitly covered in a higher level question. So the way that works is you get a question like a K4 question, but in order to pick the right answer out of the multiple choice answer list, you have to remember some definition. As I said, K2 questions, they are there, but you only get 1 point for those. The K3 and K4 questions score 2 or 3 points. Kind of depends on difficulty, but as a general rule, the K3s will be 2 and the K4s will be 3. So that's very different than the foundation. Another thing that's very different than the foundation is what's called scenario questions. So in a scenario question, what happens is that you'll get a description of a scenario, and then you'll get 2, 3, 4, or more questions asked that concern that scenario. It's realistic because, you know, of course, on projects, we're working on a project and you stay on that project for some length of time. The thing to keep in mind is that if you misread the scenario, you will, of course, have a great deal of difficulty with the question. So you want to read the scenarios very carefully. You can also be examined on material that is at foundation level, so anything that is examinable at the foundation level is examinable at the advanced level. You want to make sure that you could still pass a foundation course, so I recommend going back and reviewing the foundation material and making sure that you could indeed pass a foundation exam if you needed to. And you can have cross-section questions that join foundation and advanced sections, 2 or more advanced sections, multiple learning objectives. Certainly, I've developed questions like that. So, you know, be aware of that. Okay, here are the 7 chapters in the Advanced Test Manager module. And as I said, you know, if you look at the question distribution, really, these guys are kind of the core test process and test manager, test management, and then this guy is also pretty important. The others are seen as sort of ancillary. Now, one of the things that we did at the test manager module, which I think was really nice, was that the old chapter that had to do with reviews, which I believe was chapter 6 in the old foundation, was really pretty weak and didn't build much on the advanced, or on the foundation, excuse me. But the new Advanced Test Manager module, the Chapter 3 for reviews, it is completely you know, beyond what's covered at the foundation. We also rewrote Chapter 4 pretty significantly to take it out of its previous, like, you know, totally IEEE 1044 focused approach and get more into what you as a test manager need to think of with respect to setting up a proper defect management system. So I think those of you who are on a test management track will find this a really great improvement. Now I want to give you a chance to try a sample question here. So I'm going to put this this sample question up and let you read it, and then select 3 answers. I'll give you a minute or so to do that, and then we'll advance to the next slide, and I'll go through and explain the answers. So you'll hear a minute of silence here. Okay. Oops. So to answer this for you here, oops, shoot, let me get the highlighter up. Okay, so Scrum Master is a testing stakeholder for this project. He does, Scrum Master, he or she is intimately involved in the testing in an Agile world. Because of the custom hardware element of this, as a test manager, you would need to make sure that you understood who was responsible for the hardware-software integration testing, and you would need to make sure that you had a proper test environment, as always a responsibility of a test manager. Get this, yeah, this is B is not true. Testers and other project participants are not supposed to be separated from the team in an Agile model. They're supposed to work collaboratively. Test coverage traceability is definitely important on Agile projects. You want to make sure that all the user stories are covered by tests. It is not possible to define the test charters for each sprint prior to the start of the sprint. That's something that should be defined within the sprint. And system test execution does not wait for component test execution to be complete. In a Scrum type of model, system testing would start as soon as we have completed user stories to test. Now, moving on to the Advanced Test Analyst. You see the chapters here, and you know, the core chapter, as you'll probably remember from the distribution of the questions, is test design techniques here. This one, chapter 3, definitely very in-depth treatment of the topic of test design. And in the training courses, lots of very practical hands-on elements should be there. And in the exam, of course, you will definitely need to show your skills in that particular area. Here's a sample question that you can take a look at and give us a try for Advanced Test Analyst. I'll give you a minute or so on this too, and then we'll go through the right answer here. Okay. The correct answer here is 5. And let me draw how you would get the solution here. Pardon me, this is done with my finger, so it's not exactly the most elegant writing. Not that my penmanship was ever any great shakes. Anyway, but if we draw the boundary values showing the valid and invalid values here, and we say there's also credit limit OK. This is one equivalence partition. Sorry about the really, really silly looking O there. And then we have the credit limits not OK here. So what we have to do is first we do our valid tests. There are 2 of those. So credit limit OK with 1, credit limit OK 100. And then we do invalid tests, so we have to test 0 with the credit limit OK and 101 with the credit limit OK. So that's 4 tests total, plus we have to test some valid quantity with credit limit not OK. And that will; those are the 5 tests that we would see there. Oops, pardon me. Okay. Yeah, here you see the solution drawn out. Sorry, I'd forgotten that was there on this slide. But you can see what we have there: the equivalence partitions and the boundary values for the numeric field. All right, and then finally the technical test analyst chapters shown here. And remember, it's only 3 days, and you know, there's a fairly significant discussion about tools and automation. There's a lot of material with respect to structure-based or white box testing. That's very important. There's certainly discussion here on the quality characteristics for technical testing. And what you'll see if you go through these chapters, if you were to say read the 2007 syllabus and then read the 2012 syllabi, what you'd see is that there is a lot of commonality with respect to topic coverage. As I said, the learning objectives are basically the same with some refinements. It's just that the material's been reorganized, and as I said, the text has been rewritten so that it's really a much better explanation of the learning objectives than before. So, the new advanced syllabi are out. They are out now. There are accredited training courses available for the advanced syllabi, all 3 of them, and also there are 2012 version exams that you can take. So those are done and ready. I know I've personally run a few courses at the advanced level already, and it's really I think it's a tremendous improvement over the old syllabus. It seemed like with the old syllabus, you'd spend a lot of time in a training course basically talking around flaws that were in the syllabus, trying to explain things that were problematic. And now with the new syllabus, it's just so much cleaner and so much easier to get through, and there are not nearly as many kind of glitches that you need to talk around or explain away. So I think the advanced level working group did a good job of keeping what was good, you know, especially the learning objectives and some of the certainly all the topics that we kept, and some of the text was reused. For the most part, the text was heavily revised, in some cases completely rewritten to deal with things that were broken. We also did clarify the learning objectives, as I said before, to make them more examinable. So I really think that it's much improved. And I think now at this point the advanced syllabi are stable. It's kind of reached the point that the foundation reached in 2005, which is where after 2005, while there were occasional updates, there was a 2007 and 2011 version of the foundation that came out and did some updates, but really pretty stable with respect to the 2005 version. And we're probably there at that same place now with the advanced syllabus, that it will continue to evolve. There will be 5-year releases, so probably one in 2016 or 2017, but I would expect that the changes there will be pretty minimal, just as we're seeing with the foundation. Now, if for whatever reason you are just like going, no, I don't want a new advanced, I want the old one, you can still take advanced 2007 exams until July. I forget the exact sunset date, but you can check that on the ISTQB website. I would say that the new ones are much better. Now, if your perspective is, well, I've already taken a 2007 training, do I have to take the 2007 exam, or want to? You definitely don't have to, and you might not even want to. You'd have to really look at the syllabus and say, okay, well, how comfortable do I feel with this material? And it kind of depends on how you prepared for it, whose training you took, and so forth. So I wouldn't automatically assume that just because you took 2007 training that you necessarily want to take the 2007 exam. I mean, you can, but the new exams are much better. If you took training, and of course you're not required to, but if you did, then by all means contact your training provider and seek out their advice on which one they should take. I know we have training courses available still for both. I think other training providers do as well. So, you can certainly as I say, get in touch with them and figure out what exactly you want to do. You have sort of a window of opportunity between now and July where you can do either one. Okay, so at this point, I will bring back in Dave Stevens, and he's going to moderate our Q&A session. I'm sure a lot of you do have questions. So, Dave, you can come back on and do that for us.
Yes, I do have a few questions here. For someone who does not have a budget to go to the training classes at this time, are there any self-study guides that you would recommend for the advanced level exams in particular?
Excuse me. Well, yes, you've got options. There are books that are out now. Those books still are, to my knowledge, all about the old excuse me, the old advanced syllabi, but the learning objectives, as I said, were very much the same. So it's not like the books are really rendered obsolete. So you could use the book to self-study. There's also e-learning options available from various training providers, which is considerably cheaper than taking a live training class. So that's another option. There are also exam prep guides out there, which again are probably still mostly 2007 focused, but if you check and see how they're organized, if they're organized very heavily around the learning objectives, and there really is no reason why those wouldn't still be useful for that purpose.
Okay. That's helpful, Rex. Thanks. Another question that we had is, we're in an agile environment. How do the new advanced syllabi work for us?
Well, they should be a step up. The old advanced syllabus was definitely agile friendly in the sense that it made no assumptions about the type of life cycle that you were following. But the new syllabus is designed to be even more agile aware. And in fact, I've had a number of occasions where people who are in the agile community have read both the foundation and the advanced syllabi and said, yeah, this is really pretty good coverage there. So I think we've done a very good job of being, I guess you could say, life cycle neutral. That any we're not saying which life cycle people should use. It's completely up to each individual company. And we are also talking about the way that the different life cycles affect the testing, especially in the test manager module. We'll really get into that. Things to be aware of if you're doing Agile, things to be aware of if you're doing a more traditional iterative model, things to be aware of when you're doing sequential life cycles. So I think you'll be very pleased with the way it works.
Rex, do the new advanced syllabi still emphasize the IEEE 829 standard for test documentation?
Not anywhere near as much, no. We decided, and this is that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. We decided early on that we were going to sort of move away from what could be seen as maybe standard-centric. At the foundation level, and the old advanced is very much teaching people a lot by going through a standard. And what we decided was, well, at the advanced level, people really should be able to decide, especially as test managers, what part of the advanced or what part of a standard, if any, they want to adapt to their own particular uses. So we're definitely not anywhere near as standard-centric. I mean, the standards are mentioned, but mostly it's in the context of here's a source of potentially useful and interesting ideas that you might be able to apply to your particular situation. And so, take a look at it. But it's definitely not, there's not any longer that sort of, you're going to be expected to be able to review in gory detail the standards on the exam. We really got away from that.
Okay, that's very helpful. Rex, that's all the questions that we had. So I just wanted to remind everyone that there will be additional webinars coming up over the next several months on various topics. And if you have a topic that you'd like to hear about, feel free to email us at info@astqb.org. Also a reminder of the resources that are available at the ASTQB website for certified testers, including the ASTQB Career Center. So if you would like to post the job opening, or if you are a certified tester and would like to post your resume on the site, you are welcome to do so at no charge, again, if you are a certified tester. Feel free to also subscribe to the free newsletter if you haven't already. That is available on the website. Look on the right-hand side of the home page. And if you haven't already done so, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ASTQB. I want to thank Rex Black once again for an excellent webinar on the advanced syllabi. And this concludes our webinar. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dave.